coming back to, where do you distribute your applications? I think if you're an app provider, it's important to understand the dynamics, and I think that's quite an interesting piece of research that AdMob did there. They asked people, how do you discover the apps you want to download? And basically the key finding is people go to app stores, because the thinking is, if I want an app, I get it in the app store, not necessarily on the website of the service provider or in the carrier portal, but I go to the app store. And that's exactly what we see. When we launch the different operating systems, people go to these app stores. And those operating systems, where the mindset of the people is most advanced, that they know iPhone means app store, get the app there, that's where people go. I think Android is doing quite a good job. Nokia is still quite behind with their Ovi store. Unfortunately, not working that well either. So anyway, that's just a couple of thoughts that Greg suggested we should address. And yeah, we have got a lot of partner sites, so not just distributing through app stores. Anyway, I think that's about it. If you would like to try out Yellix, we'll be coming to the UK pretty soon. But if you would just like to try out Yellix in combination with the Facebook application, where you see the status and the photo of your calling friends, you can actually get that from Facebook directly, apps.facebook.com/YellixFB. That's it. Thank you very much.
And Rob, can you do the short version of your presentation? So we're only going to have a few minutes for questions, because we're trying to make up time that we lost a little bit earlier this morning. But I want to entertain a number of questions for the panel, since this is a very important area. So Rob's going to give us a quick look at Quite, and then your questions.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you the marketing spiel, don't worry, and I've got no bar charts either. So Quite is a user-generated reviews and recommendations site that's based on finding your local businesses, much like Yelp is, except we operate across Europe, so UK, Germany, Italy, Spain, France, about 9 countries, 10 countries are in now, across 7 different languages. So what I want to do is maybe give you a quick overview of how we've coped with taking our site to the mobile platform over the past 2 or 3 years, and then raise a couple of questions that maybe we can talk about afterwards. So this is the spiel from the iTunes store that you can read at your leisure if you like about our application. But so Quite launched at the end of 2005, beginning of 2006, and we had to wait, I would say, a couple of years for the mobile platform technology to catch up with us before we could start building something that was genuinely usable for it. We created a mobile version of the site, which is as much as we could do, and then in early 2008, the iPhone and the App Store kind of broke that barrier a little bit, and we could start creating a few things. So we had a standalone app by, I think, the end of 2008, and we followed that up with an Android app, and we've got one for the Nokia Ovi platform as well now. And the way that kind of iterated was, initially you could just go and find the best places near you based on other people's reviews and recommendations. You had to tell it where you were, and then you didn't have to tell it where you were, your phone knew where you were, and then eventually you could review from the app itself, and you could upload pictures, things like that. Today we have about 20% of our reviews come from the mobile platform, which surprises even us, to be honest. If you think we're getting over a review a minute in the UK, 20% of those people are coming from a mobile phone. And we're finding our initial problem was how we're going to deal with these short Twitter-like reviews, and we found that our users generally are no less verbose with a phone keyboard as they are with a full-sized one. So what we're beginning to look at now, I'll show you, that's the kind of platform that you've got on our iPhone app. So you can see finding places, looking at the reviews, and then leaving your own review. So what we're looking at now, I mean, this works across all 7 of our languages that we operate in across Europe as well, so you can choose in the settings which languages you want to see reviews in. So the questions for us, I guess, now are, how do we bring the social elements of our site to the phone? That's a really interesting thing for us. Augmented reality is getting there, I think, in some ways, but to me it feels a bit like having a spoiler on the back of your car. It's like someone made a car analogy earlier, so it got me thinking, it's cool and it's good, it's necessary for the people who really need it. For the people who don't need it, which is the majority, it's just something to kind of show off to your mates down the pub. I've got it on my phone and I show off to my mates, but I don't generally use it. It's like when Microsoft started developing 3D environments of, 3D models of my environment. I'm standing in front of it. I don't need to know what it looks like. I just need to know what the good stuff is. And I think what we're trying to find out is how we can take this a massive data that we have on our site now and people's personal recommendations and all this data that we've got behind the places that we've got on there, these real-time social elements that we're starting to build in, this recommendation engine that we've just recently launched on the site, and how we can take those and make those usable and viable on a mobile platform. For us, it's kind of about the cognitive shortcut circuits that people have when they're outside, when they're out in an environment. You're out in Soho at 1 o'clock in the morning, you know there's a bar somewhere near here that you went to once and you loved, or your mate went to once. How do we serve that person's need? And I know you've addressed this on your blog. People say, oh, we've sold local now. And I don't think we have, because local means wherever you are and whatever's around you at that time. And that's just, it's a huge problem. It's not a problem to solve, it's just everyone's individual needs at any one time, and how we can best kind of approach that is kind of what we're thinking up next and what we can serve up. And the other question I guess we've got, and we can maybe cover it in the panel session, is how we bring businesses into that equation. So we have businesses now uploading vouchers and offers onto our site. We're bringing those to the mobile platform very soon. How do we get over the first hurdle of teaching local small businesses what the internet was and what social networking was, and then how do we say, right, now this is the mobile platform, how do you get involved in that, and how's the best way to utilise that? Cheers.
Okay, sorry to rush you, but excellent. Mobile is quite transformative of the whole local social equation, and hopefully this will carry through in some of the later discussions. Audience questions? Socrates.
Do you have an idea of once an app gets into, say, the top 10, top 25 in the App Store, how likely it is to stay there? But I mean, if you look back at the last 6 months at the particular category, roughly how many apps would you see in that bracket?
I can answer that for navigation in particular, because we watch that pretty closely. What we've seen is that the customized vertical apps that are in the top 25 do tend to retain their ranking. So using Roadie as an example. Roadie has maintained its top 10 ranking for a significant period of time, and it's done it mostly because it has very local search, very customized look and feel. There's an alternative app map, I believe it's called Genix, but I'm not sure of the name, it's escaped me at the moment. But it hit the top 10 in the German, Japanese, interestingly enough, and UK app stores, using exactly the same base of data as Roadie. But you see in each case, in about 2 months, it fell out. And from our looking at it, the major difference was it used a very generic map style, it didn't have very good local search, and it was more of a, gee, you like OpenStreetMap, here's an application that shows you an OpenStreetMap map. Whereas Roadie went deeper. So it's a combination of being very relevant data, but also being very customized that keeps you in the top 10 from what we've seen.
Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it depends very much on the App Store and the rules they have there. Because if it's democratic and you look at how many downloads they get, then they stay up there. But there's other app stores where it doesn't work like this, where they have some content managers who decide which ones to put where and where to promote them. So that's the experience we've made.
Any other questions? In the back?
Got a question for CloudMade actually. I just wondering, with Google encroaching on satellite navigation for guys like TomTom and Garmin, do you think that they will move into what you're doing already?
They have a huge transformation they would have to make. So in fact, they already solicit user feedback. TomTom has the ability to take user feedback, but because of it's very hard to form a community. And what OpenStreetMap has done is form a community of people who really care about the maps and the data in their area and constantly maintain it. So when you send an update to TomTom, they look at it and they send a truck out to check it. And there's no community moderation, nothing behind it. So building a community is very difficult. What is equally possible is that someone like TomTom could say, we're going to use OpenStreetMap data as well. That's entirely possible, but then they'd have to dismantle their entire operation, which is built around proprietary maps, and we think it's not a very likely transition for them to successfully make. We think it'd be too disruptive.